you might want to hang on to those a little while longer. It's the Wilk Report. I'm Michael Wilk, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio, and yes, there is a Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, sort of, coming to HBO Max in 2021, a year from now, at least, and it's going to cost a lot more than people realize. So let's go ahead and get to the news story. Well, first of all, let me give you a little bit of background. Zack Snyder, after Christopher Nolan completed his Dark Knight trilogy, took over the reins of the DC Extended Universe on screen. Started with Man of Steel, went to Batman vs. Superman. Both epic films. Well, epic failures, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I mean, let's face it, when you turn Superman into someone who upholds the values that we grew up with under the Christopher Reeve era, well, okay, maybe he doesn't, but, surely Batman vs. Superman was just utterly awesome and epic and truly upholds the values of Superman and Batman.
You were never a god. You were never even a man. Save Martha!
But at least Batman vs. Superman had a good villain, right?
Ahoy, ahoy! I did not know you were here.
Someone shoot me. And you people want a Snyder cut of Justice League. You actually think that this is going to be better than what we got already?
It insists upon itself.
Keep dreaming. So let's go ahead and get to the news sources. Yeah, with the Snyder Cut coming, DC fans are destroying their copies of Justice League. Like I said, I don't know why, because it's not coming to HBO Max until 2021, and you're basically destroying something that, you'll just have to spend money on again after it turns out that the Snyder version is going to be so much worse than the shit show that bombed spectacularly back in 2017. So let me go ahead and start reading this here. DC film fans have been in a tough spot these past 3 years. None of them liked the theatrical cut of Justice League. I mean, how could you? And yet, as completists, they probably still invested in their own copy so that it could rest on the shelf next to their Blu-ray or DVD copies of Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, Wonder Woman, and more. However, now that they know Zack Snyder finally will be able to complete his vision with a Justice League coming to HBO Max, fans are taking their current copies of Justice League and literally setting them on fire. Forgive me, but this has to burn. Has to burn. You scratched out Justice League and wrote in Joss League. Drastic yet understandable. For many, they don't even want to remember that Joss Whedon's version of Justice League, known by DCEU fans as Justice League, existed on any level, so they took out their frustrations by destroying the copy of the DVD that, truthfully, they never should have purchased in the first place. Isaac says, "It didn't break as easily as I thought." You have no idea, none whatsoever, just how prophetic that is, because if you thought Justice League is bad, you haven't seen anything yet. And if that seems like too much work, simply take your DVD out of its sleeve and throw it into your backyard. I still feel like this guy's going to have to find the disc and move it to a proper receptacle. Well, I don't think so. But let's go ahead and shift over to IGN. Zack Snyder's Justice League reshoots will not involve the cast. As the cast of Justice League express their happiness over the announcement of Zack Snyder's Justice League landing on HBO Max, words come that none of them will be called back into the fray for the $20 to $30 million worth of work still needed to complete the project. And as I will point out to you in a few minutes, it's going to cost a lot more than $30 million to get this mess onto HBO Max next year. You have no idea how much. Because honestly, but let's go ahead and get to IGN. Yeah, there's no one's going to go ahead and come back. First of all, because of coronavirus, the COVID-19, none of that is going to allow the cast to come back. So on this week's episode of the Wraps Wrap-Up Podcast, Wrap reporter guest Humberto Gonzalez mentioned how Warner Brothers is apparently drawing the line at more scenes being added featuring the stars of the film. There's not going to be any reshoots of any kind with the actors, Gonzalez stated. It's just additional dialogue. Here's something that hasn't been reported yet. Zack Snyder did want to shoot and he wanted to do additional photography, but HBO Max said no, that's not happening. We'll give you money for post-production, Gonzalez added, for special effects, for scoring, and even ADR, but no reshoots of any kind on this movie. And can you really blame Warner Brothers here? Because they lost money on this project. With all the money that went into this movie, hundreds of millions of dollars on productions alone, hundreds of millions more marketing the film, getting it to theaters. The theaters took their cut, what they could get of it, overseas distribution, merchandising, all that costs money that Warner Brothers just does not want to spend on this, and even shelling out 20 to 30 million. It's probably going to be double that too, because they still need to market the movie to get people to actually come to HBO Max and watch it. It's going to be way more than that. And Warner Brothers obviously does not want to spend any more money than it actually has to. And here's another bit from Decider. HBO Max boss hints at shocking cost of Justice League Snyder Cut. I wish it was just $30 million. HBO Max thrilled Justice League fans last week when the streaming service revealed they'll be finally releasing the long-rumored Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's director's cut of the film in 2021. Well, it's not an actual cut, it's a work print. It's not finished. And while Warner Media didn't include many details about the upcoming release in their initial announcement, the project is rumored to be a costly undertaking. Sources told The Hollywood Reporter that it could cost between $20 and $30 million. Now, head of HBO Max Bob Greenblatt is hinting at just how expensive the Snyder Cut really is, and it's even more than initially reported. In an appearance on the Recode Media podcast yesterday, May 25th, Greenblatt explained to host Peter Kafka how HBO Max is currently developing the Snyder Cut because it does not exist. I just want to reiterate this for you. It does not exist. Zack is actually building it, Greenblatt explained. It's complex, including new effects, shots, and it's a radical rethinking of that movie. It's complicated and wildly expensive, which is, of course, a number I won't quote. Yeah, and I know why it won't be quoted, because you don't want to let people know just how much more money you're flushing down the drain on this thing. When Kafka dropped his own numbers, saying, I've seen $20 and $30 million, so I'm assuming it's around that, Greenblatt seemingly confirmed that the Snyder Cut cost even more. Yeah, I'll just say I wish it was just $30 million, he replied. I'll stop there, but it's an enormous undertaking and very complex. Greenblatt explained that the process of securing the Snyder Cut was lengthy and complicated, and included visits with unions and reevaluating how the new version of Justice League on HBO Max would be defined. There's lots of complexity that the fan doesn't know about, and we weren't just sitting around going, let's not talk to those fans for as long as we can, let's drive them crazy, he said. We were actually spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to do this, and there's many, many hurdles to jump over. The Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder shares new look at Darkseid for HBO Max's Justice League. The director dangles another blurry image from his not-so-mythical cut of 2017's Justice League. So his infamous director's cut of Justice League is quickly turning into a project of juggernaut proportions. HBO Max, the latest big streaming service, announced last week it would answer the call to release the Snyder Cut in 2021, a year from now, when people have probably lost interest. So yeah, again, can you blame people why Warner Brothers is so reluctant to go ahead and put this out on HBO Max, or spend any more money than they absolutely have to? So yeah, HBO and Warner Media head Bob Greenblatt said the movie would probably cost more than the $30 million previously estimated, and I will get to that in a minute. Snyder has since dropped a tease of what that money is going to buy. His cut will see Darkseid, a tyrant who rules the Hell Planet Apocalypse, join the increasingly vast cast of characters. He's coming to HBO Max, Snyder tweeted Wednesday, with a slightly blurry look at the villain, voiced by Ray Porter. Yeah, that does not look promising at all. No, it looks like crap. It's utter crap. You're teasing an over CGI'd mess that, again, just is not going to tease fans. And you're already going ahead and forcing HBO to spend money on this and Warner Brothers to spend money on this. And, here's why Warner Brothers actually doesn't want you to go ahead and to go see this, because they've already spent money on this and lost a great deal of money on something that failed to bring in the box office that was expected. Now, yeah, you can say that the production problems were not entirely Zack Snyder's fault. His daughter committed suicide. That was used as a pretext to remove him from Justice League and replace him with Joss Whedon, who then took an entirely different direction. And then, of course, infamously, the Warner Brothers execs released the movie to theaters before it was ready, incomplete special effects, bad editing. I mean, it was just a mess. And so you've lost hundreds of millions of dollars, probably upwards about $500, $600 million, maybe more, all for box office gross that, when you account for expenses, I mean, the profit margin on that was just ridiculously low. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear from you. If you like what you've heard and you want to hear more, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon and select all to receive notifications whenever we upload new content. Like this video, share it. If you want to help support the channel, keep the lights on, help us bring you more content, head over to our Patreon or our Subscribe Star page. We can't do this without you. Until next time, this is Michael Wilk for the Wilk Report saying take care. Good night. I'm out.